Hey everybody, it's Lynn from Seven Scout, and I'm sitting here with Blitz Concessions founder, chief volunteer mom, and the brainchild the brainchild behind the Blitz Concessions platform. You just didn't want to have another Excel spreadsheet binder laden season, did you?
No, I did it a couple years and was like, this is a nightmare. It's
Yeah.
a train wreck. Let's see if we can make it better.
And I have to brag, she brought in one of these for me, but she just got back from the Texas High School Coaches Association conference down in Houston. And you were able to have a booth there and have a whole bunch of coaches stop by.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty awesome thing. So we
had a great response. And so the Blitz concession jerseys were part of our promo, and I think they were a hit.
Yeah.
Everybody liked our jerseys.
Well, I got one out of this too.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll give it back when we're done. So anyway, what we wanted to do is go ahead and start with the slides, and Leslie's going to walk us through really the 5 concession stand mistakes that you can avoid. And what's really important about this is that Blitz Concessions was started by Leslie so that she could take these opportunities that she saw that concession stands were making and the parents that were running them, and find a solution that's accessible for really all size of events. We always use football games, and I think that's also why we have the jerseys on.
And we're in Texas.
And we're in Texas.
It's Friday Night Lights, baby.
And it is Friday, so yeah. But these really are, this software is something that you can use in the platform for really just about anything that is, that your high school is working on. So without further ado, why don't we kind of go through these slides one by one. First, we talked about this on the website at blitzconcessions.com, but you did come by this naturally. This is really a passion of yours because you've got all this experience with school. So talk a little bit about your school experience and your concession experience and really convenience stores too.
Yeah, I mean, I started years ago in the convenience store business. I was the marketing manager, so I was kind of in control of inventory and making sure. And I learned a lot about the importance of stuff turning. And that money on the shelf is not money in your pocket, and especially in the fundraising world of schools that are trying to do these as fundraisers and make money. Your worst case scenario is to have a really full concession stand at the end of the night. So, but not everybody comes to the concession stand. People volunteer out of the goodness of their hearts. And not everybody comes into the concession environment with a ton of business experience that's specifically related to inventory management and cash management. And you're just sort of handed the binder and said, hey, can you just take this on? And it's, and you think that the biggest problem may be volunteers, which may be your biggest challenge, but you also want to do a good job, and part of doing a good job is running it well and making money doing it, and not losing money and not leaving stuff on the table, so to speak, in terms of tying your money up in inventory or losing money in a variety of ways. So like you addressed, I think that Blitz Concessions' goal was to combine all those things into one platform, make it easier to pass the information forward, make it easier to disseminate the information while you're using it, and to give people really good inherent tools that they can use while they're running the concession stand and create good, valuable information.
Yeah, and it's something that I didn't really understand a lot about, and you having worked with your schools, there's a lot of money that's raised, and this potential of just raising that money that you're raising exponentially helps so many kids' programs. We're talking about the band and the choir and even in athletics. So those hot dogs and hamburgers and even now healthy snacks that you're buying are going right back to the kids. So why not do it in just, and do a little bit more sophistication to it, and the profits are just exponential.
And I think that what you also look at is the fact that if you owned a business that was making, $5,000 to $20,000 a day, you would feel like that would be a really successful business model.
Yeah.
I mean, like not there's few people that are actually doing that. And these concession stands, while not being run every day, when they're open, they are a business,
Yeah.
and they should be run like a business, and to be the most successful in them, you need to try to run them as a business, even in a volunteer environment.
100%. And so let's kind of talk about those 5 common mistakes that you see happening and kind of ways that you can avoid them. And the first one, you talk about a business. That is something that so many people work on, is trying to get their flow through, and that is almost stereotypically associated with a concession stand, right?
Yeah,
waiting in line.
Standing, and if you were running a business, you would say service, and you would be trying to solve the problem of the fans waiting in line. And you wouldn't want your customers to turn and walk away, and their money goes somewhere else. And so, so concession stands, the lines are definitely a challenge that we need to address.
So they wait in line, and then they go up and cash only. I mean, if you told me I had to buy my lunch right now with the cash that I have on hand.
In 2019, it's hard to get people. I mean, people are still trained to bring cash to the stadium or to the event, usually at this level, but it doesn't change the fact that by being able to allow people to use their credit card or their debit card is a huge difference in how much you're going to make. I mean, it's just so convenient for them, and it'll increase your revenues exponentially by being able to do that.
Sure. And then inventory management, I mean, that's also, it is a business. You have to go out and buy inventory, so you better sell it and sell it for the right price. The variety of foods, if we closed our eyes right now and envisioned high school football concession stand, I'll bet that universally across this nation, we'd come up with the same type of buckets of food, from the sodas, the hamburgers, the hot dogs, and the chips. And then volunteer management, my goodness, just because these people are giving their time for free doesn't mean that it's easy nor productive the way that we're doing it right now. So,
and they're transient. So, I mean, they're not transient maybe as humans, but they're transient as volunteers, and they may volunteer once and you may never see them again. So their experience in the stand, and your best opportunity to get them to say, hey, that was kind of fun, and that wasn't really hard, and I could do that, is to make their experience in the stand be as fun as it can be, and as the least daunting as it can be. And I think that's huge. I mean, you want people to want to volunteer for you, and you want them to have fun doing it. I've always had fun volunteering, but it is chaos. I mean, it is utter chaos. I mean, it is crazy, but it can be fun.
That proverbial drinking from the fire hose, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right, so let's kind of drill down on these, the top 5. And the first one we talked about was, the fans waiting in line. And I just think this is such a great image for so many reasons. First is it's kind of that pop-up. There's the poster there about, order here and pay here. There's a line of people waiting for the food. But what's very obviously missing is the stadium, the action, the reason why they came.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So one of the things I called this one is the first one, this was one of mine. It's that I call it anticipatory fatigue.
Yeah.
It just, I know what I'm about to, you say high school football game or, a concession stand. I'm like, I'm already know that I want to be talking to friends or watching the game or doing anything else but doing what those people are
and
here.
This is where you lose your customer, i.e. your revenue. You're losing that before they even come to the game.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to stand in the concession line. I'm going to go run through the drive-through real quick on the way. And you got to marry, in so many ways, you have to marry the fact that you're communicating a message of you're supporting your school by eating at this concession stand, and you're supporting, whether it's the band or the athletic teams or whatever. You got to combine that with the fact that you're going to have anticipating their fatigue. Hey, you're not going to have to wait in line. Yeah. If you're using Blitz concessions, you're able to order from your device. You're able to have it ready when you get there, or not miss a play of the game. And it takes that kind of just out of the whole thing, because you're not having to do that. I mean, you're just eliminating that part of it. I mean, you may have to wait a little bit in line to go pick up your pre-ordered food, but you know what you're getting. You've already seen the menu, and the key, if you're running the concession stand, the key is that you want those people, they're going to eat before the game, during the game, or after the game. If you capture them while they're at the game, you are making revenue. If you don't capture them and they go before or after, you know, somebody else is making that money, and that money could be going to your school because everybody's eating dinner.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's going to eat around an event. And so make it the best possible experience you can, as easily as you can, too.
And so we went through the anticipatory fatigue, but then let's say you do overcome the hurdle and you get people to stand in line. You know, these games seems like they go on for forever, but they're 4 15-minute quarters. And some people, after 10 minutes, that's almost a full quarter of football game, they're going to bolt and leave. They're going to give up and say, well, it's halftime soon, and then we can be leaving, going home and get something else. So know that your fans, on average, will leave after 10 minutes. And then also, a shorter line will increase purchases. You know, if I'm able to get in there.
And I think one of the better examples of that particular aspect of it is if you were using Blitz concessions, say, at a theater.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, you think about going to a production at a theater, for example. I mean, in the football game is a great example. But the theater is like, you're going to have an intermission and you have 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So you talk about a long line doesn't do anybody any good. But if you had food that they walked out, they came up, they told you what their order number was, and they were able to just walk away and eat their food, again, most people are using those opportunities to make revenue for their programs. And it's a way to capture, probably in a theater environment, 10 times what you were doing, because you're selling cookies and cakes. And, you know, the bottom line is you're going to the theater from 7 to 9:30. You know, I mean, if you're going to see a show, you're there forever. I mean, for dinner, you know? And so, you know, and you have this little intermission, and I know my husband, for one, for sure, you know, he wants a meal. He wants something substantial, and coming out, and he likes the cookies and the, you know, but I mean, coming out, and if he could come out and grab like a Chick-fil-A sandwich, or, you know, and they had something ready that you could kind of just stand and eat, or whatever's the best for your program, it just makes a big difference. So I think all of these things, getting fans to wait, but it's not even necessarily the waiting in the lines. If you turn it around, it's creating an opportunity to purchase by not having lines. You know, I mean, it's like you don't want them to wait at all. And in some situations, in some events that you're doing, you want to make sure that they don't perceive the line as never a thing for them. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what the goal is with Blitz, is to help you divert and diversify how you get your customers in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And the line is just one of them.
And that less rush, more purchase. You know, if I don't have somebody breathing down my neck going, come on, there's people behind you.
Yeah.
I can kind of breathe and order more. So second one, kind of related, almost all concession stands are cash only, and that's a common concession stand problem.
Yeah, when we did our user analysis on this whole project, it was definitely that the majority of them. I mean, you have some really savvy ones that are using some credit cards in some capacity, but there's a lot of hesitation about it. Yeah. But even if you're paying a credit card fee of a couple of % you're going to increase your sales by 20. Yeah. So your overall take is obviously math 18%, but you know, it's the value of it is amazing. And the service, I mean, you're still a service industry, whether you're doing it volunteer, you're still basically a pop-up restaurant serving your customers, and that's your goal. And so you want to make it as easy and conducive for them to be a great customer of your concession stand, no matter what they're doing.
And I think this next one is interesting. Technology is increasing. 75% of fans willing to try. I would bet a lot of that statistic could be getting higher and higher. This is not a number that's on the decline. And technology, I mean, you think about everything that we order through our phones and through apps now. You know, you can book airline tickets. I just ordered some products through Amazon. You can do anything with an app and with a credit card. So I would say those 25% of the fans might not be your target audience anyway.
And I think I think what you think it too, I think 10 years ago, security issues were still really prevalent in the purchasing and using. A lot of people didn't put their credit cards and stuff. And there's definitely places I don't put my credit card, but for the most part, the technology behind securing your credit card information and all that has made it a very easy, the willingness to try it is a lot, that people feeling a lot more security about what they're doing. And I think that's, that it's a more comfortable environment now.
And being part of the team that helped build the platform, we can geek out for a second, but we don't store credit cards. We sit there and pass the information back and forth, but Blitz Concessions never has your credit card and never stores it either.
Yeah,
so
because I didn't want the responsibility for security. I was like, okay, that's got to be somebody else's deal. So that all goes to a different company. But yeah, it's very true, and I think that's you know, and you want to pass that on to somebody who's got the know-how, because you know, fraud is just huge everywhere. So yeah, so you really want to use a viable company to do that. But that's the reason, to your point, the technology is increasing, is that because everybody has kind of come on board with the best kind of security for the transactions, it's become a way better way to do business in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And then also we talk about the ordering from anywhere. I remember when we first started this, like, oh, you can order from the stands. And it's like, well, no, actually, you could order from the car. You could order the day before from your house. What's really good about the fact that you aren't reliant on cash, that transaction can happen as early and as often as that stand wants to open up. So you could sell jerseys, you could sell programs, you could sell really anything. You could also pre-order your foods. And the fact that people are able to do that in their credit card, they can kind of scan through and say, what all is for sale today? And just add it to their cart and pick it up as soon as they get to the stand, wherever that is, be it a theater, or, you know, you talk about these drive-through dinners or football game, whatever it might be.
Yeah, there's a huge opportunity. And we really, I think, the team with 7 Scout and Blitz, myself, I think as we kind of evolved, we kept thinking of all the ways, you know, we tried to keep the whole platform to be as event neutral as possible, in terms of, like, we tried to keep in mind the smallest pop-up event that you could imagine that someone's doing, a small concession stand, all the way to the huge, you know, 6A Texas Cat Lights football. So I think it kind of goes the whole gamut effectively. And I think that's been one of the assets I think that's really been great about Blitz Concessions.
Yeah, and you've been able to talk with parents and schools on both ends of those. All right, so inventory management, I mean, look at all those chips, I'm getting hungry. But it's kind of the Goldilocks, right? You can't have too much inventory because that's just cost outlay. You can't have too little because then you don't have anything to sell. You know, what is it about Blitz that was important to you to kind of get that Goldilocks just right inventory balance?
You know, I have because everybody has their vision of what perfection is. And the reality, which is not very achievable, but the reality of what you really want is, at the end of any event, you want one of everything on the shelf. And that's what I keep telling everybody. I'm like, you want one of everything on the shelf, because that means you didn't run out of anything, so you didn't miss any sales, but you don't have a bunch of costs wrapped up in what you have left on your shelves. And so that's kind of your ideal, like, that's your mecca. But, you know, what Blitz can do with that is, you know, as you order over and over again, you can start seeing, like, when you order too much, when you order too little. It gives you inventory reports, and things that aren't selling at all. It allows you to, you know, don't let things sit. I mean, that's, you know, you talk about concession stand issues. You know, if, you know, you may not realize that something is sitting there. Blitz Concessions is going to give you a report, and you're going to see, wow, you can look at multiple reports and go, okay, well, we bought X and it never sold. These chips just don't sell, and we need to get rid of them. And so that's when you say, hey, we're gonna sell these chips for 50 cents. Just come get them, and you're gonna do a fire sale on them, and then make sure you know that you're never gonna order those again. And so I think that waste, you know, the biggest problem you have with waste, which we had at one of ours, is someone got excited and they said, oh, I don't ever want to order Red Powerade again, and then it went out of date. And it was kind of a mess. And so, you know, you got to balance between the not ordering enough and ordering too much, and then being able to get rid of things that don't sell. And I think in the historic concession stand model, it's all just been eyeballing it.
Yeah.
You know, everyone just kind of goes, okay, I think we've had those for a while. But it also, because of the concession stand environment, it's very transient with your volunteers and your leaders. You know, someone may not catch the fact that you've had that type of chip for 2 years, and unless you're checking dates, you know, someone may just fall through the cracks, and then they go, oh, the last people, we had this chip, and, you know, I need to go buy some more, and then all of a sudden you've doubled the chips that don't sell.
Yeah.
And so that's where you need the tools that Blitz can give you to manage that better, I think are really essential. And for the people who will use those reports, they will really benefit in making more money for their concession stand.
Because your volunteers pretty much follow the kids' trajectory through middle school, high school, wherever it is. So that's why they become transient. And then the way that they report and follow things is transient as well, right? So one person kind of puts their, I'm going to do this in Excel, or I'm going to make a Google Doc, or I'm going to put it in the binder. And I think one of the things that's smart that you did was make the tool consistent to allow the people to flex in and out, right?
Yeah.
So you can do the reporting and the inventory, and that's always done the same way. So no matter what hands are in, the platform, the cookie jar, so to speak, you're getting consistent reporting year over year, so you don't make those same mistakes.
Yeah, and you're gonna have some people that are real go-getters, that are very business savvy, and they have the time or the ability, or they think they can do it well, or whatever their motivation is to do it. And then you're gonna have the parents who volunteer who say, man, it's just nobody else took it up, and so I'm gonna do it. And I have no business experience. And so you really want to, one of the big goals of Blitz Concessions is to merge that, to make it as friendly for the people who are super savvy, and make that part kind of take some burden off of them, and then be able to give tools to the people who may not have some of the business savvy to be able to maximize their experience. I mean, reducing their risk and their annoyance and their, and maximize the positive experience that they could have. But it's just a lot of work. I mean, if anybody's run the concession stand like I have, I mean, it's a lot of work, and you can't get away from the work, but you can make the work better. The product and how you handle the workload can be managed better, and Blitz Concession attempts to do that and manage the workload better.
And I think there's kind of the 3 stages of the event. It's the setting up, right? Getting the inventory ready. It's the selling of the inventory, and then it's the shutting down, or the shop, and doing the inventory. And that's a very manual process and very time intensive. And I like the way that Blitz is, you still have to scan in or to enter in the inventory in the beginning, but you have a way to process and watch, like, oh, if we're selling these so much across these events and these dates, and then at the very end, you just process that report. So I think that's that whole manual process and time intensive. And then, the unfortunate, it's an retail industry term about shrinkage, and all that really means is inventory goes missing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a Pollyanna. I believe in the best. I think mostly that's accidental. Someone, when you have a cash intensive process, someone may, give 2 bags of chips when they're supposed to give 1, and not watching how things are going. Moving things around, and there's just no avoiding it. But then there's also kind of the intentional.
And I think for the intention, accidental, one thing that Blitz will do with that is that you'll sell it in your concession stand. You'll be reducing the inventory by a phone or an iPad or whatever, and so you'll have a very good picture, and you'll make sure you're giving that correct change. And so it kind of merges that, like, a lot of people, when it gets busy, this is 12, okay, just here's $8 change.
Yeah.
And, you think you're right, you're 99% you're right, but, maybe 5% you're wrong. And then the intentional, really, on the intentional, you hate to be like that, but, once people figure out that you are tracking your inventory, and that you are looking at these reports, and you can really say, wow, did we really go short like 10 bags of chips, this one brand? I think the people that may not be maybe more inclined to maybe be dishonest, they're going to realize that tracking piece is in place, and that's not as easy as it once was. And that's true of your cash as well. I mean, it's like, if you're kind of taking the cash out of the hands, and you're encouraging people to go buy with a credit card, increasing your sales, but B, reducing loss in your cash. You're also reducing the people walking out the door with cash. But yeah, so the inventory and cash, the same thing, but I think you're gonna find that you're gonna be a lot tighter. I mean, the word, kind of tighter on your inventory. The industry term is inventory turns.
Okay.
And so the inventory turns means if you had $10,000 of inventory in your stand, it's how many times over a period of time that you sell through that $10,000, and that's considered an inventory turn. So you can envision that ends up being, basically you want to sell through everything you have over and over and over again, and that's your ideal situation.
That's your one left on the shelf, right?
Yeah, that's your one left on the shelf.
Awesome. All right, so almost getting halfway through. In fact, I just noticed we're actually on number 4, so I apologize that. So we'll just take on your slide and put number 4. There's a little variety of food in concession stands traditionally. And that's that exercise we went through, like close your eyes, you're at a high school event, you're walking up to the concession stand, what do you smell, what do you see, what do you breathe? And it is that traditional, kind of on the concession stand / junk food variety.
Yeah.
But what are we eating outside of that? It's a lot healthier food. So
Yeah, that's okay for the fair, because the fair is
Yeah.
once a year. I mean, when you go to the fair and you want to smell, like my favorite is the funnel cake.
right,
You smell funnel cake, or you smell, candied apples or whatever. But when you're going, when you're supporting athletics and you may be at the concession stand at a school as a consumer, you could be there 2, 3, 4 times a week. I mean,
Yeah.
just because if you have kids and multiple things, and they could be cheerleaders, or they could be, it's just, so you could be spending a lot of time there. And I think historically, because of the way that concession stands are operated, most people who are savvy are going to say, well, I'm only going to buy the stuff that sells. And they really don't know what sells. That's their theory. And so they're going to kind of go buy the hot dogs, and they're going to buy what's inexpensive. So if they get stuck with it, they're not out a bunch of money. And those are all very wise ways to operate in a traditional concession stand world. I think in the Blitz world, we allow you to get more creative and have that variety of food, because there's a huge push these days with people that want their children and themselves, they want a salad, or they want a wrap, or they just don't want that heavy, sticky food. And this just really allows you, Blitz Concessions really allows you to kind of try and error, because if you can use the pre-sell feature, for example, if you go out and you have a relationship with a local restaurant that you like, and you get them to sponsor it, and you get them to give you a good deal on the food or whatever, then you can say, look, I can get really creative with this, and I can go out and I can send a message out to my potential customers through my coach, through social media, through sending it to the coach of the other team. I can send that out, and I can guarantee that I've sold it, because people can look, they can pick. When they buy it, they bought it. It doesn't technically get charged until the event starts, in case the event rains out and then you don't go and end up picking up the food, and so on and so forth. But in general, it's paid for inventory, so it's guaranteed to sell. It's sold, it's done. When they select it, they've done it. So you can experiment and get more creative in your concession stand. And I think people will be really surprised what ends up in 2019 and beyond, what ends up being of interest in the food market.
Well, sure. We know the cafeterias in kids' schools are changing too, but the concession stand just hasn't. So traditional model, the concession stand goes through and gets the exact same type foods, cooks them, and starts cooking them as the event starts, and then hopes that they run through the predictable amount of inventory. Or the Blitz concession stand goes to the restaurant on a Wednesday, let's say for a Friday theater event, says, I'd like to, find out what prepackaged meals that I could buy, put it out on the app Thursday, say, hey, parents, are you coming out to the show or the game or the meet or the, dinner, whatever? Here are some healthy options we have. They check through, I'll take a salad, I'll take a wrap, I'll take a so forth. Blitz gets that order, and that parent volunteer that Friday morning goes to the restaurant and says, I'm going to come by at 4 o'clock and pick up these 100 meals.
Yeah.
And the parents show up, the kids show up, and everybody gets a healthy alternative.
And you can still do, for the people who didn't catch on to the pre-order option, the other thing that's great about Blitz Concessions is it gives you a marketing tool within. So, if you do the hot dogs and you've got 50 hot dogs left over.
I still love hot dogs. I don't
mean
the dry hot dogs.
Really, when I go to the stadium, I'm like, I'd like a hot dog, and I like mustard and onions on it.
There you go.
But the nice part is it does allow you the opportunity to text message out and say, hey, we have 50 hot dogs left. We're going to sell them for $1. So you don't get stuck with anything. You're able to communicate. So you're able to kind of, you're able to just kind of keep marketing to your people and run it more like a business. And, with all of your volunteers, and this goes back a little bit to the volunteer side about assigning people tasks that they're good at. Volunteers are always the happiest when they're doing something that they like. In that regard, some of these things, like if you want to be the communicator and you want to say, hey, hey, we have 50 hot dogs left, who's going to send the text, but I'll do it, and they can sit there and text message and be creative and put little emojis with it or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're looking for in that. And I think that's another way. And so I think we could be selling so much more and we could be selling so much better.
Yeah. Got to be a better way. All right, so here's the final one, the real slide number 5. And guys, this was on me. But volunteer management, we've been talking about the volunteers. It's a blessing and a curse, right? Because they are passionate about their school, passionate about their kids, giving their time, giving their nights and weekends and days up to help you out. But then again, it's free help, right?
Yeah.
So you get what you pay for.
Yeah, exactly. This is true. And I think that's the biggest response I got as I've been kind of promoting this out is they're like, are you bringing me volunteers? And I'm like, God, no, I wish I could.
Yeah.
But no, you still got to do that part. But again, we try to just, you want to make, as I just said, you want to make sure your volunteers are doing something that accentuates what they're good at and what they like. Sometimes it's just schlep work, but a lot of times it can be some aspect of your concession that you can give them something that they're good at. For example, in our school, I was doing everything. I was doing all the volunteer coordinating. I was doing, all the going and buying, and I was doing all the pieces of it by myself. And as I got into Blitz and I was like, I may not have time to do this anymore, I really went back to the people that were above me and I said, I really think that you need to break this down into smaller pieces. And so you can, we found people who, one lady is like, she's fine with computers, she's savvy, she likes Sign Up Genius, and so she's done the Sign Up Genius stuff. So she's managing the volunteer piece of it. And so, the many people, one binder, there's just some of that stuff that you can kind of consolidate and in Blitz, you can put so much of that documentation and so much of that proverbial binder can be kind of an online experience that doesn't get lost, doesn't get thrown away, doesn't get, smeared, mustard. I mean, there's just a lot of benefits to the fact that everybody at any point who is involved in the process can look up the documents related to that stand. And then you can also, training difficult to mandate with volunteers. The other thing that you can do with Blitz concessions is if you want to film a YouTube video on how, if you want to show them, here's the safe and here's the this and here to do that, you can walk around in a very, in a very simple self-done video, and then you can upload that into Blitz and you can assign it to the event and say, please watch the video before you come on. And, some people will do it and some people will show up. I'm probably more the one that shows up and says, I can figure this out, just tell me what to do. But I mean, there are people who really get stressed out. I mean, I've dealt with both types of people, and you have one volunteer who's very much like, okay, so you want me to put an eye here? Okay, or you want me to put the forks here? Is this cool if I put the forks here? And you're sure, and I'm like that, I'll just put it wherever, and and some people want to run a concession stand where they really want to be specific.
Right. And
some people are sort of more willy-nilly. So, it allows you to kind of train your volunteers if you want to. It allows you to remind people their shifts. Again, the texting mechanism allows you, if you have volunteers assigned to a given stand or game or event, that you can send a message out an hour before, and now Sign Up Genius does that too.
Sure.
And so you can do it both ways, but this is just another way. Like you may have something that, Sign Up Genius is really great for the big planning, like the planning of the whole thing, the whole season and all the, but you may have a last minute reminder to a volunteer that's not as easy to communicate through Sign Up Genius. And so that's where this kind of helps. So you can communicate easily from game to game, minute to minute, if something's happening. If it gets rained out and these people have committed, Sign Up Genius, you can get on there and do it, but gosh, isn't it easier just to send a text message and it goes out to everybody and just says, hey, game canceled, we're done. Thanks for volunteering, catch us another time. So there's some of those features that are in Blitz that allows you to do those things as well.
What I like about the thoughtfulness you gave to the platform is exactly that. Nothing in here that Blitz does is something that hasn't been created before, right? There's Sign Up Genius, there's point of sale where you can catch credit cards like Stripe and so forth. There's all these tools that I think schools, when they start getting sophisticated, are kind of putting together. What's nice about Blitz is that all of these tools are in one place. surrounded by the event organizer, the organization that's putting that, we really start with like, who's the organization that's making money? Like, is it the parent teacher group? Is it the band? Who is it that is responsible for raising the money? What events are they putting on? Who are the volunteers attached to it? And then who are the customers? And so everybody kind of has these roles and has different access to tools based on how they're interacting with Blitz. So you don't have to pop in and out to different places.
Yeah, I mean,
Makes
and
sense.
that was a goal for me is I had a conversation, which is one of the things, probably one of the true catalysts for me even getting into this. Is she's like, oh my gosh, I have a full-time job. I've got kids that I'm chasing around. Even my kids that are in college are still a lot of work, and I have a house to manage. I have 2 dogs and 3 cats and, and she's like, and when I go to, it takes me so much time to do this.
Yeah.
And she goes, I don't mind doing it, but it's a lot of work. And it's always going to be a lot of work, but if you can help reduce, it's like reducing keystrokes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, the world, we all got into Control C, Control V, and, these little these little shortcuts in life. And Blitz serves as one of those other just short, we only have so many hours in a day.
Yeah.
And I think, this is just a very common sense way that we can help people, be able to know what they've done, be able to know, they can go back and get information. They can see the trade, they can kind of track what's happened. They know whether the stuff's in there. And I just think it's just another layer of making, because volunteering is an extra.
Yeah.
It's not your job.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, how much time can you give to a volunteer organization? And I've met with one woman who, she must give a full-time load.
Yeah.
She must give 40 hours a week during football season to be a coordinator of the concession stand. And she's probably an exceptional example of the amount of time someone spends. But I think you can't hardly, in a big school or in a big situation, you can't hardly get out of it without 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then and the problem is you're spending the 10 hours a week and you're still, without Blitz, you're still eyeballing inventory, not really sure what your cash should be. You really don't have any of those reports. It would be, God, it'd be really nice to go in and get the cash and count it and be like, I should have $512.
Yeah.
And here's $512, or we're short, $12 or whatever. And I think it's just a way to make you feel more comfortable that you're doing it and you're building it and you're building a great experience that when you leave and your kid's done, in most cases, that's the case that happens. When your kid's done with that youth activity, you feel like you just say, hey guys, here's Blitz. I'm going to give you the passcode and you have everything you need. You have every document, you have every tax form, you have every health, the health code form, all the directions on how to do, all of that is all in there and easy to be accessed. And I think that is just a huge part for most people.
It made me think about the kids that went off to school. You're running the concession stand and not being involved is kind of like that proverbial, the kids go out to school. You're not, that next year that you're not working at it, you're still obligated to answer questions.
You're kind of the past president.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's a phrase, or a past head, I mean, it's a, they're always going to look. I mean, again, the woman that I've been visiting with, and she said, she goes, they're not going to let me go next year. I mean, her kid's a senior and he's gone, and she's like, they've already told me, I'm not letting you go. You have to hang here. And so, and some people like it, but you will. I mean, it's a burnout game.
Yeah.
And so you have to be prepared, and you got to be prepared for things that don't get managed well. I mean, there's a whole dynamic that goes on there. I mean, you're going to have people that are great at it and they manage it really well and they make huge improvements and they have these ideas. And then you're going to have people who are like struggling through. And so you want to be able to have that. There is a constant of something that is true and good, and somebody did it right at some point in time. And and no matter what kind of maybe not as efficient person rolls through the door to help, which is going to happen. Hopefully it's not any of us.
Yeah.
But, I mean, hopefully hopefully you can overcome, you don't get set back.
Yeah.
I mean, because at the end of the day, you're raising money for whatever youth activity, whoever's volunteering and running these concession stands for whatever event you're doing. They're almost, I mean, most Blitz customers, 99.9% are going to be fundraising opportunities. And so everybody wants to make money.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. If they weren't trying to make money for something, they wouldn't be doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think about that passionate volunteer that you have, and so many, you can see that person. And then there's also that a phrase that I've learned going through this with you is parents are being voluntold.
Yes.
So remember that you're going to have people side by side, one that's passionate, and the other one that was voluntold. Yeah. So where do we go from here? I know we've got the Blitz Concessions website up and running, so we were blogging about different food and how to run your stands, different types of events, things to look for. But I think most importantly, which is really generous of you, you're willing to, if somebody requests a demo to sit down with them and understand exactly what they're trying to figure out and custom tailor the solution, path for them. You're still doing demos?
Mm-hmm. I did one this morning, right and early. So yeah, no, I'm doing a lot of demos. It's 35 minutes for the demo and probably 10 minutes for questions. So it's about a 45-minute total process, I think. I mean, it just depends on how many questions, but
yeah.
I mean, I think I've gotten really good response from that. And then, custom tailoring to your needs. I mean, I'm super flexible. This is what I'm doing. I mean, This is my job. So I'm really just trying to get it off the ground and really help people have a great experience. Awesome. Getting it off the ground. And then, as you say here, there's limited time. I have some custom Yetis. I do not have one with me today. I forgot to bring it, but awesome. Yeah. So I will mail you a Yeti.
Yeah,
they're Blitz concessions on them.
They're etched on the side. They're gorgeous Yetis. If you get in the queue in time. So anyway, we've got Leslie's email address there, leslie@blitzconcessions.com, and also her 1-800 number. So be sure to reach out, check out on the website, and we'll see you the next time for another webinar. And thanks for following along with Blitz.
All right, thank you.
Cool.
Sorry, I looked at my watch because I was like, how